Hi guys, welcome to this video on Act 3, Scene 4 from Macbeth. Now this is part 2 of the scene, and in this part we're going to see Macbeth's reaction to Banquo's ghost. Now within that reaction we're going to see lots of ideas around guilt, betrayal, treachery and violence emerge. But overall, this part of the scene marks Macbeth's complete descent into corruption, madness and his abandonment of kind of the moral Christian values of the society in which he lives. This scene develops ideas around the supernatural, and by the end of the scene we're going to see Macbeth fully giving in to the powers of the supernatural, the powers of evil, and kind of resigning himself to the fact that he needs the witches and their supernatural solicitings to kind of make sure that he manages to hold on to the power of being the king. But before we go through this annotation, let's have a listen to the scene.
The table's full.
Here's a place reserved, sir.
Well,
Here, my good lord. What is that moves, your highness?
which of you have done this?
What, my good lord?
Thou canst not say. I did it. Never shake thy gory locks at me.
Gentlemen, rise. His Highness is not well.
Sit, worthy friends. My lord is often thus, and hath been from his youth. Pray you keep seat. The fit is momentary. Upon a thought he will again be well. If much you note him, you will offend him and extend his passion. Are you a man?
I and a bold one that dare look on that, which might appall the devil.
Proper stuff. This is the very painting of your fear. This is the air-drawn dagger which you said led you to Duncan. Oh, these flaws and starts. Impostors to true fear would well become a woman's story at a winter's fire authorized by her grandam. Shame itself! Why do you make such faces? When all's done, you look but on a stool.
Behold!
Look!
How say you? What care I if thou canst not speak to? If charnel houses in our graves must send those that we bury back, our monuments shall be the maws of kites.
What quite unmanned in folly.
If I stand here, I saw him!
Fie for shame!
The time has been that when the brains were out, the man would die. And there an end, but now they rise again with 20 mortal murders on their crowns and push us from our stools. This is more strange than such a murder is.
My worthy lord, your noble friends do lack you.
I do forget. Do not muse at me. My most worthy friends, I have a strange infirmity which is nothing to those that know me. Come, love and health to all. Then I'll sit. Give me some wine. Fill full. I drink to the general joy of the whole table and to our dear friend Banquo, whom we miss. Would he were here. To all and him, we thirst. Avaunt and quit my sight! Let the earth hide thee! Thy bones are marrowless. Thy blood is cold. Thou hast no speculation in those eyes which thou dost glare with.
Think of this, good peers, but as a thing of custom, 'tis no other. Only it spoils pleasure of the time.
What man dare I dare approach thou like the rugged Russian bear, the armed rhinoceros, the heckin tiger, take any shape but this, and my firm nerves will never tremble or be alive again, and dare me to the desert with thy sword, if trembling I inhabit, then protest with the baby of a girl. Hence, horrible shadow, and real mockery, hence. Being gone, I am a man again. Pray you sit still.
You have displaced the mirth, broke the good meeting with most admired disorder.
Can such things be and overcome us like a summer's cloud without our special wonder? You make me strange, even to the disposition that I owe, and now I think you can behold such sights and keep the natural ruby in your cheek when mine is blanched with fear.
What sights, my lord?
I pray you, speak not. He grows worse and worse. Question enrages him. At once, good night. Stand not upon the order of your going, but go at once.
Good night. And better health attend his majesty.
A kind good night to all.
It will have blood. They say blood will have blood. Stones have been known to move, and trees to speak. Auguries and understood relations have by magpies and choughs and rooks brought forth the secrets to man of blood. What is the night?
Almost at odds with morning. Which is which?
How sayest thou, Macduff denies his person at our great bidding?
Did you send to him, sir?
I hear it by the way, but I will send. There's not a one of them, but in his house I keep a servant feed. I will tomorrow, and betimes I will to the weird sisters. More shall they speak, for now I am bent to know by the worst means the worst. For mine own good all causes shall give way. I am in blood stepped in so far that should I wade no more, returning were as tedious as go on. Strange things I have in head, which will to hand, which must be acted, ere they may be scanned.
You lack the season of all natures. Sleep.
Give me to sleep. My strange and self-abuse is the initiate fear that wants hard use. We are yet but young, indeed.
Okay, so let's look at some of this annotation. So we're going to start here where Macbeth says the table's full. You know, he's been invited to take a seat, and he says the table's full because he sees someone sat in his seat who we know is Banquo, but he doesn't yet realise that. Now, consider the symbolism of Banquo occupying Macbeth's seat. You know, in the future, the prophecy that he received was that Fleance would become king, essentially. And Banquo will father a line of kings. Now, is it Fleance that's going to be sat in that seat? Is this showing that Banquo is going to take Macbeth's power away from him? Now, as well, this marks the start of his hallucination or the haunting, depending on whether we're going to focus on Macbeth's mental health or whether we think that this develops the theme of the supernatural. Now here's a really key quotation. Macbeth says, "Thou canst not say I did it. Never shake thy gory locks at me." So this "never shake thy gory locks at me" talks about violence and blood. This could also relate to Macbeth's guilt at the murder of Banquo. Where he says, "Thou canst not say I did it." This is a denial of his guilt. This is Macbeth saying, "I didn't murder you." But at the same time, this lacks of honour, because obviously Macbeth is the person that sent the murderers. And consider, again, the way that Macbeth is killing. Sending assassins to murder your best friend is really not a very honourable way to kill anyone. Okay, Lady Macbeth then tries to calm the lords after Macbeth's kind of sudden outburst at the ghost of Banquo. She says, "Sit, worthy friends, my lord is often thus, and hath been from his youth." She tries to fake an existing mental health problem to justify his behaviour here. She's trying to manipulate the people because she does not see the hallucination. Now consider, what is the meaning and purpose behind Lady Macbeth not seeing that hallucination? She was complicit with the murder of Duncan, she was there with the blood on her hands, but she didn't really have a part in Banquo's murder. So Macbeth is starting to move further away from her now. Their relationship is starting to fracture even more. And she challenges Macbeth by attempting to challenge his gender once more, as she did in Act 1. She says, "Are you a man?" This echoing Act 1, Scene 7. But here it has far less impact on Macbeth. He's not so much concerned about proving his manhood because he's genuinely terrified by what he's seeing. He responds, "I, and a bold one, that dare look on that which might appall the devil." And he's talking here about Banquo's bloody ghost, thinking, could this be the supernatural? But at the same time, he's seeing the consequences of his actions. He's seeing his best friend with his throat slit stood in his hall, which could also relate to the idea that this is to do with his guilt. Lady Macbeth tries to belittle his experience. She says, "This is the very painting of your fear." Now, this is quite an ambiguous statement, and there are lots of things we can take from it. If she's talking about it being a painting of your fear, this could be her saying that his fear isn't real, that what he's seeing isn't real, how he's feeling isn't how he's feeling. He's just got himself worked up. At the same time, painting could be seen as a euphemism for blood. And indeed, the air-drawn dagger that she references afterwards, the hallucination from Act 1, where Macbeth says, "Is this a dagger I see before me, covered in dudgeons and gouts of blood?" Could she be thinking that his fear is to do with the blood on his hands, his own guilt? This again relates to when Lady Macbeth challenged Macbeth for being so scared after he murdered Duncan. She says, "'Tis the eye of childhood that fears a painted devil." This painting again. So she's saying in that scene that Macbeth is behaving like a child for reacting so strongly to blood and the image of death. Again here, she is trying to belittle Macbeth because of his reaction to blood and images of death. She once more challenges his masculinity, saying that these flaws and starts, impostors to true fear, would well become a woman's story at a winter's fire. Saying that he's kind of like, he's behaving like a woman. However, then we get Macbeth fully reacting to Banquo's ghost. He says, "Prithee, see there, behold, look, lo." Use of caesura within his speech here breaks it up. And this broken speech could be seen as an idea of mental distress. Macbeth then uses some really dark imagery to kind of sum up what he thinks is happening. He says, "If charnel houses and our graves must send those that we buried back, our monuments shall be the moors of kites." So he's saying that if dead people are going to rise up, if the ones that we have murdered are going to rise up and haunt us, then kind of our churches, our religious institutions, shall be the moors of kites. Now here is a further bird reference, and kites are linked with the ideas of fate and prophecy. They are also seen as vermin that were known to attack babies during the Elizabethan and Jacobean era. So by saying that religious institutions will be the victims of these vicious birds linked with fate and prophecy, maybe indicates that Macbeth believes that nothing good is going to happen again, that things that were good have been turned bad by evil forces. Lady Macbeth then continues her attack on his masculinity. He says quite unmanned in folly. So, you know, here, Lady Macbeth challenges her husband's manhood. And just to note, if we're thinking about this from maybe a feminist perspective, it's very unusual for a wife to talk like this, particularly at this time. You know, that she can so openly challenge his masculinity in front of his lords. But at the same time, it shows she really only has one way to manipulate him. And at this point in the play, it has stopped working. You know, she's unable to just continually challenge his gender and call him out for being unmanly, because what Macbeth is experiencing is, like I said before, is genuinely terrifying him. We then have another reference to blood. Blood hath been shed now. So he said that before this moment, blood has been shed. And in this reference, I think he's talking about guilt. I spelt gwit. Sorry for the spelling mistake there. And he says that even after blood has been shed, murders have been performed too terrible for the ear. So he's talking about murders that are morally wrong. Now, if you're thinking about what murders have occurred in this play that were morally wrong, I think you have to be thinking about the murder of Duncan. And again, this is a reference to the murder of Duncan being against natural law, and the idea that the murder of Duncan is kind of against nature because of that great chain of being that people believed in so much. But he says, but now they rise again. So this is Banquo's unnatural appearance at the feast. With 20 mortal murders on their crowns and pushers from our stools. So the reference to crown here must be an indication towards Banquo's prophecy, that Banquo is going to unseat Macbeth and create this lineage that's going to last forever. And this idea as well, that Banquo's ghost will push us from our stools. Is this Banquo's ancestors or Banquo's lineage, you know, his future children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, pushing Macbeth away from being king, pushing him off of the throne, you know, which could be seen as a stool. Now consider this. Lady Macbeth can't understand Macbeth's hallucinations. And what does this show about her? Well, I think it shows she doesn't fully understand him and the things that he has experienced. So she isn't fully aware of the corruption and treachery that he has committed. At the same time, she isn't aware of the violence that he has committed, of the war, you know, the things that he has seen at war. That there is a possible link that this whole hallucination is caused by the things that he's seen and experienced before now. So then the ghost of Banquo goes and Macbeth regains some of his composure. He says, do not muse at me, my most worthy friends. I have a strange infirmity. So he, like Lady Macbeth, is trying to blame this on just, you know, poor mental health. Now consider the things that he's about to say in front of all of the Thanes. You know, and think about the dramatic irony that comes out through this, the guilt, and the references to power that he makes as he talks in front of his Thanes. He regains his composure and says, I drink to the general joy of the whole table, and to our dear friend Banquo, whom we miss, would he were here. So there, you know, there's some dramatic irony, because for Macbeth, Banquo is there. He's seeing Banquo's ghost. However, he eventually notices Banquo's ghost again, and says, Avaunt and quit my sight, let the earth hide thee, implying his guilt and his knowledge of Banquo's murder. It says, thy bones are marrowless, thy blood is cold, thou hast no speculation in those eyes which thou dost glare with. Again, thinking, is this supernatural? Is he seeing the ghost here? Or is this a mere hallucination, brought on by his guilt and the knowledge around Banquo's death? Lady Macbeth once more tries to bat it away, but Macbeth tries to reinforce his masculinity. He tries to assert his masculinity. What man dare, I dare. And again, there is a nice parallel quotation from previously. I dare do all that may become a man. You know, he believes that if he can convince the people around him that he is masculine, they will overlook his behaviour. He then implores Banquo's ghost, approach, thou like the rugged Russian bear, the armed rhinoceros, or the Hiken tiger. He's here saying that he can deal with physical threat, that if the ghost were to appear as something that was dangerous to him physically, he could deal with that. It's this supernatural image that he can't deal with. It's the image of his friend dead that he cannot deal with. He then implores Banquo's ghost to come back and be alive and challenge him to a fight. And he says again, if I were to back down from that fight, then call me the baby of a girl. Showing that he would be more than happy for Banquo to come back and for him to kill him and to have a proper actual fight. Then the ghost leaves again for the final time, and Macbeth says, I am a man again. So he himself believes that his reaction to this ghost is quite feminine. We then see Macbeth's shock that nobody else saw or reacted to the ghost. He says, when now I think you can behold such sights and keep the natural ruby of your cheeks, while mine is blanched with fear. So this shows Macbeth's reaction, that it has caused a physical reaction. He's gone really pale. And think a little bit about Macbeth's initial reaction to the witches. He talks about the image that doth unfix my hair and make my heart beat in my chest. Macbeth does have quite strong physical reactions to the supernatural, and this is another example of that. Lady Macbeth then, kind of providing some sort of structural symmetry within this scene, tells the lords, stand not upon the order of your going, but go at once. Now, if you bear in mind, at the beginning of the scene, Macbeth says, you know your own degrees, sit down at first and last. So the scene begins with Macbeth adhering to this social convention that the lords should sit in their rank of order, whereas Lady Macbeth tells the lords to just not bother about that social order, not bother about that social convention, just leave. Now this could symbolise the degradation of the great chain of being. By Macbeth murdering Duncan, the whole chain has been disrupted. It could also symbolise Macbeth and Lady Macbeth's abandonment of hierarchy and conventions of the time. So the lords leave, and we're left with Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. And in these scenes where it's just the two of them, we're able to see more of their honest selves. So then we see Macbeth say, it will have blood, they say. Blood will have blood. And this is a key quotation to remember. Blood will have blood. This talks about Macbeth understanding that Fleance is at some point going to come and try to get revenge. Or that someone is going to come and try and get revenge. Whether it be Fleance or Malcolm. He understands that the blood that he has shed is going to result in more blood being shed, whether that's him killing other people or other people coming to kill him. And this talks about paranoia. This talks about Macbeth understanding that revenge is on its way. But at the same time, it's possibly guilt at his own violence. He's resigned to the fact that he's just going to have to kill more and more and more people. We then see some references to unnatural things happening around the world. He says, stones have been known to move and trees to speak. As I've said before, these unnatural images are all consequences of Duncan's murder. Duncan's horses turning and eating each other, the slates being blown off the roofs, the birds being awake all night. All these unnatural images are signs that nature has been disrupted. And the main thing that disrupts nature is Duncan's murder. This is then backed up by these references to birds that can speak, or birds that can imitate speech. Choughs, rooks, they're able to relay the secrets of men. We then have some light dark imagery. Macbeth asks, what is the night? To mean what is the time? Lady Macbeth replies, almost at odds with morning. So the morning is about to break, night is about to end. We're thinking here light dark imagery and good versus evil once more. But at the same time, I think this could be a reference to them not being able to sleep. Macbeth is kind of unaware of the time because he's lost that sleep cycle. The same with Lady Macbeth. So when he asks, what is the night? Almost at odds with morning. shows they're operating in this limbo space, that time doesn't really matter anymore. We then have a reference to Macduff. How sayest thou that Macduff denies his person at our great bidding? So he's asking her, what do you think about the fact that Macduff didn't turn up? Showing that Macbeth is aware that Macduff isn't fully loyal to him. They then talk a little bit about plotting around finding out what Macduff's situation is. And Macbeth says, I keep a servant feed. So he's there, he's got a servant living in Macduff's house that feeds information to him. He then says that tomorrow he's going to go to the Weird Sisters. Now this is a really important turning point in the play. This is where Macbeth kind of rejects traditional Christian values. He rejects anything that is good and resigns himself to having to use the witches to work out what to do next. It shows corruption on Macbeth's part, but at the same time, it could show control from the witches' part. There is an idea that throughout this play, the witches are always working in the background, manipulating Macbeth and trying to make him behave in a certain way. And we're going to see that in terms of the structure of Macbeth's final speech. He says, for now I am bent to know by the worst means. This reference to worst means is a reference to prophecy. It's a reference to witchcraft and evil. It shows that Macbeth understands that what he's doing is wrong. If we think about this whole sentence here, where he says, for now I am bent to know by the worst means, the worst, for mine own good. This is a reference to fair is foul, I think. Worst being foul, good being fair. It's this juxtaposing imagery that never really talks about truth. It is equivocation. And if you remember, the witches equivocated a lot. And that idea of equivocation is intrinsically linked to the witches. Now, from here on in, as he mentions the witches, Macbeth starts to use rhyming couplets. Again, thinking about the degradation of Macbeth's speech, linking with the idea that he's becoming more corrupt, but at the same time, by mirroring the speech of the witches, does this talk about their control and power over him? He says, all causes shall give way. This is part of his unchecked ambition. This is saying that anything that stands in my path is going to give way. Also links with the idea of greed. Okay, let's deal with the next thing that he says as a total unit. He says, I am in blood, stepped in so far that should I wade no more, returning were as tedious as goer. So the blood here is a reference to guilt, is a reference to violence. But this idea of him getting deeper and deeper into water, I think, is a really nice development of the idea from Act 1, Scene 7, on this bank and shoal of time. So before he murders Duncan, he's kind of on the shore, looking out into this sea of blood and violence. Now, at this point in the play, he's killed Duncan, he's killed Duncan's guards, he's killed Banquo, he's attempted to kill Fleance. So he's further in to this sea of violence. And he says, should I wade no more, returning were as tedious as going by saying that he was wading, shows that he is deeper within this water or blood. But at the same time, he says, returning were as tedious as goer. So stopping my actions would be as boring as just continuing all of this murder, showing that he is resigned to his fate, that he understands he just needs to continue now. Note the rhyming couplets, more, hand, scanned, and abuse and use at the end. We then have a final reference to sleep. Lady Macbeth says, you lack the season of all natures, sleep. And this is a development of the idea that they can't sleep, that they're being punished by God for the things that they've done. Remembering the idea that if you were disturbed in your nature, if you were disturbed in your rest, that was seen as a punishment from God at this time. Macbeth says, come, wheel to sleep. Now, is this some foreshadowing of their ultimate fate? Macbeth says of Duncan that he is sleeping now. Is Macbeth talking here about the ultimate sleep, death? And then finally, Macbeth finishes with, we are yet but young indeed, showing that they are inexperienced in these murders and experienced at dealing with the consequences of these murders. Okay, so that's Act 3, Scene 4. I hope you found it useful, and I'll speak to you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.